In Climate Watch, the last decade has brought more attention to climate and environmental issues all around the world. Sea levels have risen, biodiversity has declined, and millions of people have been affected by extreme weather. Now, experts say 2020 is likely to be one of the hottest years on record. So what can we expect over the next decade? CBS News meteorologist and climate specialist Jeff Berardelli is here to explain. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's a little intimidating seeing that we just lived through the hottest year on record.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the hottest years on record, yep.
So it feels too late. Is it too late?
No, it's not too late, but we do have to reverse course fairly quickly. And what that means is that we need to start moving into sustainable energy, and we need to start lessening our dependence on fossil fuels. And we don't need to look at this as a death sentence. We don't need to look at this as kind of a doom and gloom scenario. This actually could be an opportunity. We need to turn something bad into something good, and we can do that. And it really will create a better life for us. I mean, we can create a better life for ourselves. So by moving in the direction of sustainable, cleaner energy, we clean up the atmosphere, we clean up the environment, and we are forced to create all these new industries and, as a consequence, all these new high-paying jobs. It's inevitable. It has to happen if we want to combat climate change. And in doing so, we kind of release American ingenuity, and we revive our economy, and we all live a better life. Now, that might be slightly idealistic, but it can happen. It is the truth. We can aim for a better life. It's not like everybody on Earth right now is living a great life, right? Why not aim for better? We can aim for better by combating climate change.
Jeff, you're very positive for somebody who's coming on here ready to spout some doom and gloom.
Well, listen, I've read a lot about gloom and doom. I've been doing this for many, many years, so I've read a lot of gloom and doom, but I realize that this is an opportunity. It's truly an opportunity. It really is.
You mentioned sort of pressure on innovation. That's going to make all the difference. Where are we going to see the hardest hit areas coming into the next decade now?
So we're looking for tipping points in the climate. That is something that we just don't know. It's kind of an unknown. We're not sure exactly how that's going to work out. One of those tipping points is what's happening in the Arctic. Mm-hmm. Permafrost is melting. Permafrost is essentially somewhat permanent ground, but it's not permanent anymore because it's melting, releasing carbon that's been trapped in it for thousands of years. And by doing so, it's releasing heat-trapping gases back into the atmosphere. So instead of being a sink and storing carbon, which it's done for thousands of years, this year it's turned into a source of carbon, exasperating climate change. That's one. The Amazon. The Amazon is being destroyed by slash and burn, by farmers, by loggers. In addition, climate change is drying it out. And by drying out the soil, it's killing some of the trees. And what I mean by that is the forest, the Amazon forest, actually creates its own rainfall through evapotranspiration. So by releasing water vapor from the leaves, from these trees and the soils into the atmosphere, it creates clouds and creates showers and thunderstorms. So when you start to fracture the Amazon and break it apart, it just starts to dry out. And it's very close to a tipping point. There have been several scientists who have said that. It could happen in the next decade. We need to watch for that because right now it is storing carbon dioxide. Once it becomes a savanna, it's not a tropical rainforest, we lose all that species diversity and we release all that carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. And also, the last tipping point that we want to watch for is instability in ice shelves in Antarctica and in Greenland. Right now, they're not necessarily stable, but we're not noticing a tremendous instability. It's likely to happen decades from now, but we could start seeing fractures as early as a decade from now. That's something we need to watch because if that happens, we destabilize any of those ice shelves and sea levels, instead of rising millimeters, they start rising inches or even feet.
One of my good friends works for NASA and he travels to Greenland often to study just this. And every time he comes back from a trip,
he's depressed.
He's so depressed.
It's happening faster than we thought it was. In fact, 7 times faster than it was back in the 1980s, I believe.
That's terrifying. So we mentioned innovation, so that's a lot of pressure we're putting on these next 10 years. So does that mean that that could be something good for the economy, good for jobs? What does this mean for homeowners in the economy?
Okay, so for homeowners, Carter Evans, one of our correspondents out in California, recently did a story on homeowners who are having trouble getting insurance on their homes, or rates are going up exponentially. So these folks probably can't afford to pay for insurance anymore. And even so, even if they could, who's going to buy their house when they can't get insurance or a 30-year mortgage on it anymore? That's not only going to happen in fire-prone areas, that's happening in low-lying areas exposed to sea level, and that's also going to happen in floodplains, exactly in the Midwest. So a lot of people are going to see that they can't get insurance or affordable insurance anymore, or it's going to be hard getting a 30-year mortgage. Once that happens, what happens to the housing market? It collapses. And that is going to be a reality over the coming years, hopefully decades and not years.
So is this the part where we empower millennials and we pass the torch to them? Is there a possibility for younger generations to change policy and really make a dent in this?
We cannot pass the torch because they've taken it already. They already have the torch. We saw what they did last year. So Greta and all the activists all across the world basically said, we're not going to take it anymore. You guys caused this problem. You're not helping solve it. Clearly, it's on us. We're the ones who are going to have to bear this burden. So we're going to take it upon ourselves. Within 1 year, they organized tens of millions of people all over the world and created an energy and enthusiasm that us adults in 30 years couldn't even come close to doing. They did in 1 year more than we did in 30 years. And so I don't think their energy and their enthusiasm is going to go away anytime soon until they figure out a way to solve this crisis.
You went to Twitter, where people are arguably the most honest, to find out what they're most concerned about. What are some of the things people were saying?
Yeah, so I posted on Twitter, said, okay, over the next 10 years, what are you most concerned about? Number one was refugee crisis or climate migration. That is something we're really concerned about because as we start to heat, especially the equator area, and we start to dry out the soils, these farms, these agriculture areas, these crop-producing lands turn into deserts. We call it desertification. If you're a farmer and you cannot grow crops on your land anymore, you can't make a living for yourself. What do? You have to leave. You have to move to a different area. That's one area. That's one point. The other point is heat waves are going to become so oppressive. We're seeing it happen in Australia right now that people aren't going to want to be there anymore. They're going to have to leave for their health. In fact, certain parts of the earth by 2100 are predicted to be uninhabitable. So people are going to be forced to leave. Well, this is going to create national security risks, international security risks, and a huge humanitarian crisis. That's what people on Twitter are most concerned about. Ultimately, that's what I'm concerned about the most because I'm concerned most about the people that have least among us. I'm concerned about that because I can probably protect myself. We might be able to because Americans are generally richer than lots of people in the country and lots of people in the world. But these people can't fend for themselves. That's what I'm most concerned about.
Jeff Berardelli, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it.